Welcome to the Mental Insights Podcast, a conversation aimed at understanding all sides of mental health, addiction recovery, and homelessness. Each interview will include one's personal experiences and insights, or an expert's advice and knowledge within one of these fields. The goal is to promote awareness, guidance, and support for anyone who is affected by these challenges. Thank you all for listening. Welcome to the Mental Insights Podcast. This is your host, Brendan.cutuli, and we're here today for Season 2, Episode number 23 with Dr. Robb Kelly. Robb struggled with some alcohol dependencies, which led him to a period of homelessness, and then he led himself to create the Robb Kelly Recovery Group in order to help others who have faced similar challenges today. And Dr. Robb Kelly is joining the Mental Insights Podcast to speak about his own personal experiences and how he is supporting those who face addiction today. So, Robb, thank you for taking this time with me on being on the Mental Insights Podcast.
My pleasure, absolutely, Brendan. Thank you for having me. It should be fun.
I think it'll be a great conversation. It's always, people who've personally experienced the issues in order to help them help others who've experienced similar ones. And to start off in this first part of the episode, we're going to be speaking on some of the challenges that you've faced and what you've been able to learn from them. And to really start out, what kind of challenges arise when you become addicted to any type of substance? What challenges do those bring in terms of, one's own life in all regards?
Well, let's just talk about alcohol for a second. No, addiction it comes in many forms. I can only speak about alcoholism. It affects everything we do. I mean, to start off with, alcohol is a social drink that everybody likes to get involved with. It's coupled with relaxing and having a great time. But if you're an alcoholic who was kind of born this way, or abused alcohol terribly because of your childhood, then it affects every single part of your life. It affects your love life, your work life. It definitely affects any self-confidence that you have. We tend to use it as a crutch in the early days, but that soon wears off, and we find that it kind of rules our life. And with me, that's what it did. I mean, I started drinking very early age, 9 or 10, and it was to get confidence. And then as the years rolled by, we found out that it really just drags confidence out of you. And before you know it, days you're left with nothing whatsoever because you have no confidence at all. I had no job, I had no family, I had no kids left, and it was just all gone.
It certainly poses such a challenge when people experience some of these early childhood, types of traumatic experiences. They actually tend to lead into, some of these, whether it's substance, alcohol, this use that creates kind of this spiraling effects that poses a lot of challenges. And for some people, coming to terms with whether they are an alcoholic or not, I think is probably one of the most challenging things of saying, all right, I have the problem, I need to seek help. Can you explain some of the priorities and interests that you have when you are an alcoholic? So maybe someone can try to understand if maybe it's a issue that they are struggling with themselves.
Nobody starts to drink alcoholically straight away. So although we're born with the addictive brain, which are basically neural pathways which are self-sabotaging, so we self-destruct over any period of time. So if you're drinking too much, there's a couple of types. There's a heavy drinker, there's a moderate drinker, and then obviously there's the alcoholic. So you can go through a couple of stages before you realize you're in trouble. But if you're drinking every weekend and it's not a problem, then it's good. But if you find yourself drinking during the week, or drinking when you're not supposed to be drinking, or you've said I've sworn off for a week and you can't do that week, then you probably have a problem with alcohol. I always say to my guys, when you take the first drink, can you stop? If you go to the bar with friends and you have a couple of drinks with dinner and go home and don't touch it for a few days, you're not an alcoholic and you're not abusing alcohol. Now, there's such thing as a binge drinker, which means that they go crazy every now and again, every couple of weeks, and they can stay off it. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about sensible drinking. If you can do that, I would continue. It's amazing. Alcohol served a purpose for me for a short while before it became a problem. But if it turns out to be a problem, or you think you have a problem, which is always amazing when people come to me and go, I think I'm an alcoholic, what do you think? you've answered your own question. If you have to ask somebody if you have a problem, you probably do. And therefore, you need to seek help and talk to somebody. I mean, it's a very dirty disease, though. Nobody likes to admit it. It's coupled with weakness and lack of self-control. It's none of them things. It's a brain disease. It goes back to trauma when you was a childhood, and the remapping of the brain is distorted. And therefore, as we go into adult life, we take this with us, and then alcohol kind of takes over your life, and then the choice whether you drink or not is taken off you. So very quickly, you find out that I have a problem with it, and then possibly 9 times out of 10, it's a little bit too late, but it's absolutely got a grip of you, and you need to seek proper treatment for it.
Some people don't really are aware of the repercussions that can be in place if you do abuse alcohol. If, something goes wrong, it can go to an extreme. And oftentimes that is when people start to, awake in terms of their own challenges and why they do need to seek out that help. And, can you share a little bit of your story of how, alcohol can really cause repercussions in your life to even bring you to being homeless? How did that transition, and explain more of how, more challenges can be in place if you do, have these negative effects from using alcohol too much?
Well, alcohol is a toxin to start with, so we're putting something in our body that's not very good for our body. So if we look at the health problems alone, the liver, even the heart, the weight gain or weight loss, the damaging of the brain as we drink on a daily basis, all these health concerns are troubling. And what tends to happen is if you're drinking really heavy over a period of time and then all of a sudden you manage to stop, doesn't mean the health problems will stop there. These are long-term effects that can come back and come and start bite us on the backside, if you will, and show up again many years later. So we have to bear that in mind. Any drinking in any moderate kind is always the best thing to do. For me, I just got to a place where, like I said before, I drank for confidence, and then I drank because it made me feel good, and then I drank because I had to drink. And what happens is I have a mental obsession when it comes to alcohol, which means that my brain will always say it's okay to drink, nothing crazy is going to happen this time. And as soon as I take that alcohol inside my body, I crave for it. Now, you can't crave for something that's not already in your body. So as soon as I take the drink, then I crave for it. And what happens then is if I don't keep continuing to feed my physical being, I start getting sick. And most people know that as the DTs, delirium tremors, where my body actually goes into convulsions because it hasn't got alcohol inside them. And most drugs, when you withdraw, you can't die from them, but with alcohol, you can. It's very, very dangerous. In fact, if you call a detox up or a treatment up and you need to seek help, but they can't get you in for a couple of days, they will often tell you not to stop drinking because it can cause damage. So the long-term effect isn't good when you're abusing alcohol. And the short-term effect wasn't good for me because finally and eventually I lost everything that I built for so many years. I built a house, I built a family, I got kids, I bought nice cars, it's like just everyone proud of you in the family. And then you go and self-sabotage that by, losing control and then drinking during the day. And then before you know what day it is, or especially with me, I lost everything completely and was end up homeless, like you said before. So it's a very baffling disease. Alcoholism is the only self-diagnosed illness in the world, which means that just because you've got 10 DUIs does not make you an alcoholic. It's what happens when you take that alcohol, how the brain reacts and the body reacts to it. If you find halfway down a glass of beer, you're wondering where the next glass of beer is coming from, there's a sign. If you say you're not going to drink until the weekend, but you find yourself drinking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's a sign. All these things we have to be careful of because in today's world, instant gratification is not quick enough for people today. So we tend to jump on these things and not realize how much damage it's doing until it's possibly too late. And that's going to be a problem.
It certainly brings up those issues that can be a severe problem. And, it has to be some sort of event for some people in order to seek that help. And could you speak about the steps it took you in order to seek out that help, and maybe some ways in which some people can do it maybe a little bit earlier so they don't have to experience some of the challenges that were in place within your own experiences?
Well, I was stubborn. I was very stubborn, and I kept fighting. I didn't believe it was a disease. I didn't believe that I had any kind of lack of control. It was just always pushing it to the extreme. And it happened pretty quickly for me when I came homeless, and I was on the streets for 14 months, and nobody would speak to me, and the family disowned me, and I was abandoned on the streets. And after about a year and a bit, about 14 months, um, something happened one day. I was just sick of it, and I tried to get off the streets, and eventually I did, and then sort of wanted to guarantee to myself that I'd do this for the rest of my life. Now, one of the reasons why I do this today, and will continue to do, is to stop people going down as far as that, as far as I did, because there are signs to look for. And when they say you have to reach your bottom, I truly believe that. But a bottom doesn't mean you're homeless, doesn't mean you've lost everything. We picked a girl up a couple of years ago. She's got a couple of years sober now. Her bottom was a 5-star hotel drinking $1,000 bottles of champagne. That was her bottom, and we wanted for that to be a bottom. So you don't have to lose everything, but it is a problem. And believe it or not, when I tell you guys out there that if you don't address the problem, you will end up losing everything. There's never been one case of successful alcoholic drinking like an alcoholic does. Not one case that's been successful since alcohol was invented that's ended well. It always ends the same way if you leave it and continue to do it, because the body and the mind become so dependent upon it that you'd rather shoot yourself in the head than not get hold of a bottle of vodka. It becomes the only primary thing to do. Now, there's a medical science behind this, because the hypothalamus at the back of the brain, just in a prehistoric brain, it's a fight or flight part of the brain. So what the hypothalamus tells the brain to tell the body to do is to eat food and drink water. That's a fundamental survival basic message from the hypothalamus. However, with the alcoholic, it tells us to drink alcohol. And that's why an alcoholic can go days or weeks without eating food or drinking absolute water. They just survive on beer and vodka or any sort of spirit. So that's the reason. So when you're trying to argue with your brain, it's very hard to win that argument. Once the thought pattern comes into your head that I'm going to drink, there's no better. All bets are off. I've never turned back from a liquor store yet. Never. When I've been on the way there, because my mind's made up.
It certainly shows how strong of a connection that your body has with your mind, in terms of when you have that dependency, it tries to change your thoughts into wanting to always seek out that thing that's going to make you feel better, which in turn is alcohol. It constantly wants that every day. And within, this aspect, when you're in that place of really only seeking out what's going to make you feel okay, could you share about some of the, differences that you saw as you were getting sober, in terms of your own mental health, in terms of the way that you're interacting with yourself? How did that transition change from, when you were an alcoholic, when you're dependent on alcohol, in transition to when you got sober? And how did your mental health really transition and change throughout that process?
My mental health when I was drinking and homeless was deteriorating rather fast and quickly, to where I was absolutely insane with the disease of alcoholism. I wasn't thinking properly. Now, my definition of insanity is not the usual one that everybody hears, but it's my inability to see my own truth. So when I have lost everything, and I am living on the streets, and nobody will speak to me, I still don't think I have a problem. I just think I'm going through some bad luck, and it will pass. So the key to all this is, once we start getting well and seek help, seek treatment, is self-dialogue. Self-dialogue and words itself is very, very important. What we tell ourselves is what we become. Show me your friends and I'll show you your future. As in, what we hear from people and what we feel from people is where our mental state is going to be. And the stronger we get, the better life becomes. But it can always be attacked. The self-sabotaging brain always have that capacity to be attacked, and we've got to be careful of that. So if you're surrounding yourself with people that don't really care for you, but care for themselves and trying to put themselves first and never lift you up, but always trying to put you down to make them feel good, you need to stay away from those people. Remember this quote that I come up with a few years ago is never share your dreams with people who never share your dreams. So if you're hanging around people who want to see you succeed, you will succeed. And if you hang around people that want them to succeed and rather put you down, that's what's going to happen. We take in all this stuff that's been said, and especially our actions around us. It's like when someone makes a joke, little fat Jim in the corner, and someone goes, "That's horrible." "Oh, I'm only joking." No, you're not. Everything we say in a joke to other people is a real message that we're trying to be funny, to make it not, and it's hurtful. And the old rhyme at school is "sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me." It's false, guys. It's false. Words have the actual potential to kill people like me and normal people. I've worked with some of the biggest stars, including Robert Downey Jr., Eminem, all them guys. I've worked with them guys, and they will tell you. And the only reason why I mention them is because he said I could mention them, by the way. I'm not outing anybody here. But they will tell you that before they go on stage or making a film, they are so nervous, they have no confidence because they've read something in a newspaper or a magazine that somebody wants to put them down. So it's all about surrounding yourself to make sure that your mental health stays positive and strong.
I think that's such a valid point because oftentimes, there's this perception that, people around you don't really have those drastic effects in terms of, what really plays within your life. And although people surrounding yourself may not play a part in terms of how you're able to seek out help and seek out the recovery that you need, they are crucial in terms of supporting you and uplifting you, whether it's before or after or during the process in which you're seeking recovery. And within the aspect of community, can you speak more about the importance of that and whether it's being at a place such as a recovery group, whether it's a place such as an Alcohol Anonymous meeting, or even just your friends and family that are there to support you? How crucial is having a community around you for someone who is facing the challenges of alcoholism?
Absolutely pivotal. Absolutely so important. Again, who we surround ourselves with. You can not want to get well, and family and friends will force you to get well, and then you grab hold of that trend, and then things will get better. So you need that support system. And those people who haven't got a support system, or those people whose families have passed away, that's why the fellowship of these 12-step groups is pretty good, because you can go there. Now, the only crux of that matter is that not everybody in Alcoholics Anonymous is an alcoholic, and not everybody in Narcotics Anonymous is a drug addict. People go there for different reasons. So you have to be careful, once again, who you're surrounded by. I've been to some AA meetings, and all they want to do is put you down and speak behind your back because they want to be the in crowd. Well, we've got to be careful of that. So again, make sure you're open with the family. That's very important. And I lost my family for quite a long time. In fact, I didn't speak to my daughter for 25 years. And only last year did she get in contact with me because she wanted nothing to do with me. And then since then, I've been back to England and 4 or 5 times, and I've held my granddaughter, and the family's been reunited. But when you're apart from your family, your own blood, it's very difficult. I mean, you can get well by all means. I'm not saying that regardless of anything, but there's that bond that's missing. We like other people, especially our family, to be proud of us. It's just in our heritage and our upbringing. We always want to please our dad, and we always want to please our mom, and that's just the way it is. That's just human nature. So when that bond is complete and everyone's reunited, it's unbelievable.
Well said. And, there's definitely a lot of different challenges that can be in place, as you're saying, whether it's, personal, whether it's within social aspect, whether it's your family and friends, or even within your workplace. And to share more a little bit light in terms of the lessons that you learned, because you said that we try to really step in to help people when maybe they are at their low, but we don't want them to go any lower. And within your own experiences, you certainly faced some challenges throughout the ways in which alcohol brought you to a low place. And throughout those struggles, you say there kind of isn't necessity in order to experience those and try to see some good out of that. And I want to know, what were some lessons that you were able to learn through some of the darkest and most challenging moments of your experiences thus far?
Well, a couple of lessons there. One of them is that we are good enough. You are good enough out there, whoever's listening to this. And we often think that we're the only people suffering from any sort of mental, I don't like to say mental illness, I like to say mental injury. So we have this mental injury and we think we're the only ones that feel this way, when there's millions of people feeling the same way. So don't feel isolated and don't feel like you're the only one, because that's the trap I fell into. It was a case of nobody will understand what I'm going through. Nobody understands, because my parents didn't, that's for sure. So I thought that nobody would be able to understand what I was going through. So that's what we try and pass on to the people coming through our company now. Robb Kelly Recovery Group as a whole only take on 4 patients, and we only deal with them 4 patients for 90 days, so that we can teach all these life lessons. Because the alcohol and the drugs or the depression or the bipolar or whatever it may be, that's not the problem. The problem is we need to remap the brain, and we need you to feel as if you're wanted, as if you're good enough, and you can actually go out and achieve anything you want to do in life. It's just, if you can visualize it, you can hold it in your hand. I mean, people go, no, that's just crazy. No, it's not. You look at the great philosophers, look at the great businessmen, look at anybody in a business, CEO, anybody of power, any player, football player, baseball player, they visualize these things. You watch a kicker before he takes a kick. He's not just sat there back twiddling his thumbs waiting for the snap. He's visualizing that ball going between them posts. And 9 times out of 10, it'll probably happen unless his concentration is broke. So quantum physics tells us that, let's say on a basketball court, I can be 25 places at the same time, the same moment in time. I can be up to 25 places on that court. Where do I want to be? Well, I want to be over near the goal so I can grab the ball, pop it in, and be the hero of the match. How do I get there? I walk over and I take that position, because I've already visualized myself being there. So when I get there, it isn't strange. It's like, oh yeah, this feels good. I've seen this before. The mind has visualized it. So therefore, you just walk over and take it. Don't interview for it. Don't ask for it. Walk over and take the position in life that you want to take. I often tell people I went to bed when I was 20 and I woke up when I was 50. That's how quick life goes. And these opportunities pass us by on a daily basis. Mental injuries are not lasting forever. Alcoholism and addiction, you can recover from that stuff. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Recovered means to gain one's health and state of mind back. I'm never cured of it, because I have the alcoholic addicted brain. So therefore, I will carry them traits. And if I'm not careful, I could fall back into the trap of drinking on a daily basis, which would absolutely destroy me. So there's things out there that you need to accomplish. If you get up in the morning and you want to be a winner for that day, you want to start checking off things you've accomplished, make your bed. Check. There's the first one. Make breakfast for your wife, spouse, daughter. Check. Now we're on a winner. Now, how many checks can we get in today? Life should be a challenge. Life should be exciting. Life should, if you're going to bed on a Sunday night, guys, and you've got that pit in your stomach of, oh God, it's work tomorrow morning, get another job. You're in the wrong job. Life's too short. If you're going on to your girlfriend or your wife, you're going, oh my God, I wonder what mood she's in. Get another girlfriend or wife. This is about you enjoying life to the full. I have the biggest saying I say in this company is, says who? Well, that's the way his marriage is supposed to be. Says who? Well, I can't have a car. I can't have a Porsche when I'm 21. Says who? Who's making these rules up? I tell you who's making the rules up. A bunch of losers. That's who's making the rules up. Let's rewrite this stuff. Because once you start recovering from alcoholism or addiction, it's like me. You know, some of the fear of what we do, because we make practical decisions based on fear. You know, oh, well, I'm going to stay in this job. I don't want to try that because, hey, this is a safe option. It's 2020, guys. There's no such thing as a safe option. Not in work, not in love life, not in anything. Everything's a gamble today. I had a friend once who was an architect, and we were playing in this band. And the guy said, hey, we're going down to Scotland. We're going to have an audition. And the guy says, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to be, be playing musician. I'm going to stay with this job. It's a safe job. So they got another guitar player. And after a few months, they went down for an audition in Scotland. And when the band was named Oasis and started signing contracts, the guy that was the guitarist, John, who decided to stay at home and be the architect because it was a safe job and his girlfriend was pregnant, got laid off 6 months later. And everybody in Oasis would earn millions of dollars. So we come about these challenges every day. And the practical decision is not always the practical decision. Look at how much fear is involved here. In my decision, how much fear and how much reality is there? Because fear is not real. I mean, we fear something. When we get there, it's never like we thought it was going to be. And when we actually get to the point where we were fearful, fear disappears. Think about that. That's very clever. You know, I'm fearful of this and fearful of that. When you get to the point when you face that object, I'm scared of speaking, I'm scared of taking that exam, it's gone. There's no fear. You're in the moment. So why not stay in the moment 2 months ago when you was in fear of that place? Or why not go for that job or go for that car? I mean, what's the worst can happen? You go back to the job that was a safe bet anyway, because they're going to have you back. So that's the kind of the way I look at life today.
Wonderfully said, Rob. I greatly appreciate that. I loved many of those responses that you really had and lessons to share with my audience, because those are some of the things that I believe can tangibly be in place in many people's lives. And it's really how you set yourself up with your mindset, with your perspective, which is exactly how you're really characterizing a lot of these different lessons, and how you can use that to your benefit. And you have to take control, as you're saying. You have to take that initiative. And I think that's a great way in order for someone to really, make those changes that need to be wherever the challenges may arise. And that certainly shows in which how you're able to carry yourself today. And we spoke a little bit about the ways in which you are supporting people, and that will be in the next episode, where we'll be speaking about the Robb Kelly Recovery Group. And I just want to thank you for taking this time, Rob, to share a little bit about your personal experiences and what you've been able to learn. And we'll transition over into the Robb Kelly Recovery Group in the next part of this episode.
Thank you so much, Brendan. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. This was Season 2, Episode number 23 with Dr. Robb Kelly. And please be sure to tune into the next episode, where we'll be speaking about Dr. Robb Kelly's recovery group and what he does in order to support people who are facing the challenges of alcoholism. So let us know what you guys think of this part. Please be sure to tune into the next episode, and we'll be there to incite you all about what Dr. Robb Kelly is doing today. So thank you all for listening. Thank you all for listening to today's episode of the Mental Insights Podcast. Make sure to reach out to today's guest or myself if you need any advice, guidance, or support in your life today. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and review to this podcast so we know what you thought of this episode. I look forward to being in touch with you all in the next episode. I hope you all have a wonderful day.